All right, excellent. All right, world, Podlayer team here once again, doing what we do, tracking the Mojo phenomenon, the human quality phenomenon, and seeing all the ways that it manifests itself. Today we're doing track 2 voicing, and I'm with Glenn. He's doing some catch-up work to solidify his L4, right?
I believe so, yes.
Nice, kicking butt, kicking ignorance, beating ignorance down. Okay, so we're just going to do a quick filming here, finishing off the Mojo Dojo portion of the full incantation. All right, so Glenn, do you want to go ahead and read the questions out, and then I can do that if you want.
You can read out the questions and I'll read out the answer, and then I'll do the answers.
Okay, great. So here we go. What is quasi-state? What is example of quasi-state? How does quasi-state relate to Mojo reading? How does quasi-state relate to self-awareness? How does quasi-state relate to self-development?
Right, so quasi-state refers to being in a special state where there is a union between the elements that are often kept apart, which can yield great benefits, particularly in regards to gaining difficult but rewarding insights. An example of a well-known quasi-state is having an awareness of death in order to make the most out of life. In Mojo reading, there is a need for quasi-state to observe the most tacit energetic, and it can best be described as
energetics. I fixed that. Thank you. It should be plural.
Energetics, and it can best be described as detached interest, where you are moved to note the answer while not letting the answer move you. Establishing this state will make you aware of all the influences that are unduly keeping you off balance, so you may address them and regain your motivation, confidence, and clarity. Therefore, learning to Mojo read goes hand in hand with an ongoing journey of self-awareness and self-development. Right, so I'm eating right now, so just for the audience to know, I'm gonna have to put down the cell phone. You're gonna have to focus on like the ceiling or my forehead or something. But I'm gonna be reading it and going over it at the same time.
Fair enough.
So there, yeah. All right, let me see if I can do this. So quasi-state has to do with basically taking note of those things that are normally kept separate, but you're unifying them in order to take your ability to read and just yeah, emoji reading is one example of it, but it's just sort of like something like a life practice that can be done in anything really. An example of a quasi state that sometimes people go into is realizing the significance of death, so that they take note of that, and then that then what do you call it, motivates them to be able to take life seriously and live life uh, more as though they, like with the right things in mind, holding on to the right information, doing the right things with one's life, making every moment in life count for the most that it can possibly count for, instead of just like not worrying about stuff that ought to be worried about and be handled. It relates to Mojo reading because when Mojo reading, you're noting a lot of different energies that are influencing you, and being able to detach yourself from those energies in a sense, but still be mindful of them, but not so you're allowing the energies move you, but not move you in the sense that your lens gets fogged up and stuff, and so you're being thrown around in a way that you don't, and you lose balance. So that's something that that's not allowing to, you're noting the movements that are happening in front of you, but you're not allowing them to move you basically. uh, this relates to self-awareness because you become aware of all the different things that are going on around you, in terms of like the Mojo reading is, uh, and just in general life and stuff, uh, so that it takes your level of ability of noticing things around you to a higher level. And then it relates to self-development in the sense that being aware of these kinds of things, you're able to then live more more mindfully, I guess, and so that you're able to then uh, develop yourself, knowing what's going on around you. If it goes hand in hand with the self-awareness, you need to be aware of what's going on around in order to then be aware of like how you can develop yourself better. Because if you can have the desire to want to develop yourself more, but if you're not aware of what's going on around you, then you're kind of lost in a sense. So you need to be able to see the areas in which need being worked on in order to then develop them. And quasi state has to do with also noticing yourself in a lot of ways as well, and what's going on with you internally, and being able to note those things, and then get a handle on them more effectively. Does that kind of answer it?
It does. No.
Right, cool.
Next up, last one here is, all right. Um, okay. What is peak pathway? How does peak pathway relate to Mojo reading? How do peak pathways relate to social alchemy? How does this relate to all humans being one people? Did you get that?
I got the first two, I think. What is peak pathway, and how does it relate to Mojo reading? Right?
Yeah. Then how does peak pathway relate to social alchemy? Do you get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And last is how does this relate to, how do these principles relate to all humans being one people?
Relate to humans being one people?
All humans being one people.
I'm going to read out the answer just real quick. So, learning about your innate nature design unlocks your peak pathway, the ideal way to apply your special gifts to every aspect of your life for peak performance and enjoyment. Every person you meet or know of also has a peak pathway based on their innate nature design, which can be determined through Mojo reading. The interaction between the peak pathway of two or more people is called social alchemy. Therefore, there are peak pathways for any and all groups of people as well as for each individual person. Throughout human history, people have been seeking for a way to unify all humans that also respects each individual, but it already exists in nature. You just have to be able to see it, which Podler training teaches you how to do.
Cool. When you're ready.
Right. So peak pathway is something that once you learn about your own innate human nature design, it's something that you'll automatically begin to start learning about as well, because in order to essentially realize your full potential as far as all of the abilities that you have, your peak pathway is what allows you to be able to access and apply all those powers and abilities to the most utmost of their to their highest level. Anyone who doesn't know what the mojo is doesn't know how to use their peak pathway, and thus they don't know how to maximize what they're capable of doing, because they just aren't aware of what the terrain is. When you have that knowledge, though, then you're able to do that, and you're able to optimize it and calibrate it and make it just right. I'm talking in Xi terms because I tend to sometimes do that, but I mean, you're able to really just become the best as far as like how to do that. It relates to mojo reading in the sense that all peak pathways are essentially products of one's innate human nature design, and the only way in which you're able to figure that out is through mojo reading and be able to actually read another person's mojo. So once you identify that a person is, an IG, for example, then you know that their entire peak pathway is that of an IG, which is an IG Xi V, Niji Zi Vi. Or go in terms of energetic method, which is Nai to Ni, Ji to Jai, Zi to Zi, Vi to Vi. But that essentially comes from the essential element, which is their actual innate nature design. It relates to social alchemy in the sense that when any two people interact, you're seeing two different peak pathways, two or more peak pathways if it's more than two people interact with each other, and that's basically two innate nature designs interacting with one another, and you're seeing the dynamics of all that energy and what's going on with each individual's powers. If you're with your inspirational other, for example, you'll know that all 8 powers are being represented, and you're able to then take note of that social alchemy as a phenomenon. Whereas if you see a Naiji with another Naiji, you're able to see that there's an augmentation quality that's going on there when that social alchemy grouping is seen in nature. These principles relate to all humans being one, because there's always been a desire to want to unify all people, but at the same time respect each individual. And that is something that people have been striving to want to accomplish. But the thing is that it already exists in nature. And if you learn to read your own mode, if you learn your own modes, and if you learn Podler, all this stuff will start to make sense, and everything will basically come together, because it's all right there in front of you. You just have to be able to see see it for yourself, and then basically it's all ripe for the picking, and you're able to use that knowledge to the to essentially apply on yourself and in your life to the best that you can.
Good.
So yeah.
Nicely done. All right. Bam. Credit received. So that is the end of that section. So we're going to sign off and then come back on Mojo journalism, get into some of that. All right. See you in a bit.
All right. See you.